So today we're going to cover email probably in a very broad way, and we're going to get into the fundamentals of email, because what a lot of people don't understand in troubleshooting any kind of email issues is that there's a lot of different service providers. There's a lot of different kind of properties that go along with emails, and there's just a lot of different types. Now, what we're going to do today is fully understand that. So we're going to start with by understanding what an ISP is versus what an ESP is. An ISP is an internet service provider. That is your Google, your Microsoft, your Yahoo, your Earthlink, your AOL if you want to date yourselves, and it goes to many, many others that are out there and that exist pretty much in the universe. And it's too many to count, so it's impossible for us to list them all. And the reason they're called ISPs, Internet Service Provider, is usually because they're providing you a service, and some of them do it for free. So for instance, I can go and sign up for a free Gmail account. I can go and sign up for a free Microsoft Live account, a free Yahoo account, and so forth and so on. Those are great for, family and friends and interacting with businesses when you're the consumer and you don't really have a business that you want to really send emails out of. Now, those are not really made for business. And what happens is if you try to start using those for business, 9 times out of 10, they'll end up in somebody's spam or pretty much in the promotional area, or you'll get flagged and pretty much not be allowed to send. And even if you are allowed to send, it just kind of completely blacklisted, and it will go directly into the spam box every single time. Plus, there's very little to no security in a lot of the free apps. Now comes in a professional ISP email address that is provided that you paid for. Now, what do I mean by that? So for instance, if I started a business, Nuno.com, I would be sending from that particular email. So it would be Nuno@Nuno.com or support@Nuno.com. All of those email addresses are professional email addresses, and I pay money to have that ability to send from my domain, and my domain being the Nuno.com. Or it could be yourbusiness.com. So Nuno@yourbusiness.com, if that makes any sense. Now, why that's important for you to understand is if you're going to have any kind of business, you're really going to want to go to a professional email address for a multitude of reasons. One, for the enhanced security that it has. It has enhanced two-factor authentication. It has the ability of controlling who comes in and out of your actual email. And it gives you the ability of adding 3 additional DNS records. Now, DNS records we're going to get into a little deeply, but DNS records are important because that, believe it or not, is what makes the email more secure. And you don't have the ability of doing that in the free version of your Gmail account or free version of your Microsoft Outlook. And right now, the only 2 that I honestly recommend is your Google Workspace or your Microsoft Office 365 or Microsoft Office in general. You pay whatever amount of money it is per month. Usually it's anywhere from $6 to $20 per user. And I can guarantee you it's probably going to be one of the best investments if you're really starting out. Most of them come with a calendar. They come with a drive that you can store things into up to 30 gigabytes, which in the internet space is a lot of time, and it's a lot of space, I should say. And more importantly, it allows you the ability of sending transactional emails out. Now, even those have limits of how many emails you can send out a day. So when it comes to Microsoft and Google Workspace, they really don't like you to surpass anything from 100 to 500 a day. And that's after you warmed up your particular domain address. So for instance, if I came in at Nuno@Nuno.com, it's my first day in that email box, and I go out and I grab a list of people that I think I know or that I bought outside of the internet, which by the way, don't ever buy lists. And if you do, you got to make sure you vet them out, and there's a whole entire process around that. But let's make believe I bought a list of 1,000 people I want to email that could be potential clients. If I try to send all those emails through my brand new business Google Workspace account or Microsoft Office account, what will happen is Google and Microsoft will flag me as spam because I try to do too much too quickly. Because if I was a hacker and I bought a list, what I would try to do is try to send as many as I can before I got shut down. And it looks for those behaviors. So if you mimic those behaviors, the odds of you getting shut down on a brand new domain and a brand new account you've got is pretty significantly high. And what do I mean by shutdown? Shutdown means you're going to end up in spam, or you're going to end up in the promotions tab, or they're going to blacklist your domain. Yes, being on the blacklist does have an impact on your particular account, because what will happen is your emails will no longer be sent, and eventually, if it's bad enough, it will always go into spam, and it'd be very rarely that your messages will ever make it into the inbox. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm paying money for a service and I'm trying to get emails out to my customers, I need to make sure it hits the customer's inbox, because if not, then they're never going to get anything from me. Then I'm wasting the amount of money I am per month. But aside from the calendars they provide you, aside from the actual space that they give you, all of those things are pretty important. Now you have your ISP or internet service providers that we talked about. You have your paid version of that, which are your professional accounts. Then you have what's called an ESP. An ESP is an email service provider that allows you to send to mass markets. And those are actually divided into, I would say, probably 3 categories. The first category is going to be like your regular ESPs, like your ActiveCampaign, your MailerLite, your ConvertKit. These are all, and there's many more. There's about like 30 or 40 of them. These are usually the top ones. We really are big fans of ActiveCampaign and ConvertKit. And what they do is they have thousands upon thousands of customers, and they buy all these different IPs. And IPs are basically domains that they've purchased that allows them to send email in those domains. So for instance, they have probably 1,000 Nuno.coms, and that's an exaggeration, but Nuno.com really is an address that has like 154.123.321.111, something like that. And what they do is they buy a multitude of these pools of IPs, they put them into little pools, and what they allow people to do is send a bunch of emails out from these pools. Now, the reason that's important is because they have so many pools, they have so many people using it, they have a really, really high reputation that allows you to send to a lot of people at one time. Plus, remember, even your professional Google Workspace accounts and your professional Microsoft Office accounts will have limits of how many you can send per day. Not necessarily true when you go over to a paid email service provider, an ESP. ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, MailerLite, and all these other ones have the ability of sending mass emails to an incredible amount of people, and they also monitor a reputation. But the way they monitor your reputation is they put you in sending pools based on your behavior. If you're a really poor sender, they put you in a really poor pool of people, and they all have really low open rates, like 20 to 18%, which is still better than you would get if you were trying to send a bunch of emails out from your Microsoft Office or your Google Workspace. Then they put you into a medium-sized pool, which gets you open rates of anywhere from 20 to 40%. And if you're a really good sender and you're sending quality emails and people are clicking and opening them and your quality is amazing, then they put you in the really good kit pool, which allows you to send at the optimal level. Now, they all have different ways about doing this, algorithms and all kinds of technologies that I have no idea what they are, but they switch and move people over based on behaviors on a consistent basis, and it allows people to continuously keep sending to mass audiences without having an enormously heavy impact of whether or not you would even try to do this yourself. Now, there's a different kind of category that is kind of the category we play in, which is your email service providers, your ESPs, but that allow you to send as an SMTP relay. And what that means is it's a little bit complex, but it's more controlled and it doesn't give you as best as reporting, but what it does is it almost allows you to have your own server. And what that allows you to do is have more control on where what IPs you sit in and basically how you send through those IPs. Now, when you get really, really big, they even give you the option of having your own server. And having your own server, meaning you're in a very, very small IP pool. So instead of being in an IP pool with thousands upon thousands of people that you have no idea, you'll be in a smaller IP pool that maybe has 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 people in there, but they're all already paying premium price to have really good deliverability rates, and it gives them a little bit of control. And those are going to be your Send-in-Blue, which I believe now is called Brevo. You have your SendGrid, and then you have your Mailgun. Now, we've been using Mailgun for over 4 years. We're really happy with them. We're on a dedicated server, meaning we're sending at a pretty high rate, and our open rates are incredibly high, but we have full control. Then there's even Amazon servers that are a little bit tougher to play around with, and you really have to have like a little bit of an IT background to fully understand them and set them up. And they're kind of a little bit hard to manage, so we tend to stay away from those just because of how hard they are to manage, and even for our clients. But these are a little bit better because they allow you to send on behalf, but you're in a little bit of control over the poolers. The only problem with these ESPs is that the reporting's kind of all over the place. It's really hard to read, but when it comes to having a lot more fuller control, they are really good. The other thing that's the huge super advantage of these ESPs is that they connect and they integrate into certain software. Now, we're big fans of HighLevel, so we use either SendGrid or Mailgun to send email. And I got to tell you, Mailgun has a direct integration directly to HighLevel. SendGrid, you can even have directly connected to other softwares also, like ClickFunnels and even Kajabi. All these different softwares that are out there, these CRMs connect to either or, and also Sendinblue, because they allow other interactions basically to have a connection, and they allow you to control the server so you can have a connection back and forth. And even you can even create your own dedicated domain within these particular SMTP relays or these email service providers. So because it has an email API, it just allows a lot more controls and a lot better and thorough integration when it comes to different softwares. So if you're planning on using HighLevel or any other kind of CRM software, these are the ones usually good to go with, just because of the level of control and integrations they're allowed. Now, the last couple ones, which are super important, and also for you to get a clear distinction. Now, remember early on, I mentioned about being able to send and buying a list and sending to a mass audience. Well, that's called cold emailing. Cold email requires a certain type of software, and there's honestly just a few that we really trust. We have New Reply, which this one right here is exactly meant for that. It's meant for cold email software. There is a specific way that you can send it out, and when you buy a list, they validate emails. There's just cold email processes are not really meant for any of these other ones that we talked about. They're really honestly meant for software that can handle it. You have No Reply. A lot of people use Gmass, which connects to your Google, but it limits the amount that it sends per day, so it never breaks the rules per se. We've had okay experiences with Gmass, but it is also another way to do it. The only difference here is when you're doing a cold email process, you're basically buying what we call a burner domain, and you're basically buying a domain that you really don't care about, because if you ever get blacklisted, it's not impacting your search results on the web or your regular email, business emails from going out. So if you're planning on doing any cold email, we usually strongly suggest buy a brand new domain. Don't worry about it getting burnt out. Make sure that you understand that cold email is its own significant process, but it's usually the way we go about it. And then there's also Instantly, which is also a really good one right now. But again, there is cold email software that is very specific to doing cold emails when you buy lists and you're trying to send out to the mass public. Again, all of these have their purposes, right? So just to kind of cover everything in conclusion, right? You have your free email services, your Yahoos, your free Gmail accounts, your free Microsoft Live accounts that are really not made for business. They're great for family and interactions, but they're really not good for consumer to business. For consumer to business, it's great, but from business to business, it's not really a good idea. Then you have your professional addresses like your Microsoft Office 365 or your Google Workspace. Those are meant for professional transactional emails. Those are the go-tos when you have to build a business. And again, those also have limitations that you cannot send out to big mass audiences, and you can't do more than whatever the limitation is for those particular email addresses per day. Then you have your ESPs. Those are email service providers like ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, all those ones that we mentioned prior that are going to be allowing you to send to a mass audiences, but you need to understand that they have different pools, and based on your sending, you're going to be put in a pool based on your particular behaviors. Then you have your ESPs that act as APIs and relays that allow you other software basically to connect through APIs that give you full control and also blend into the actual software. And then the last service of their ESPs is your cold email softwares that allow you to send to cold people that you've never interacted before. And that's usually when you're trying to interact with businesses and so forth. And we talked about No Reply and Instantly, with like the third being Gmass, which we're not really big fans of. And we also told you, if you're planning on taking that route, don't use the regular professional domain you're planning on for regular emails, but instead use like a burner domain or a domain that you're really not interested in and you can take a little risk with, because just in case something gets burnt, not that these services will do that, but just in case it does, it's not impacting your main domain. So hopefully this helps and you get a full understanding of emails and the different types and why it's so important for you to understand this core. Hope you enjoy this video, and we'll see you in the next one.